Welcome back to Suzuki Science. Mr. Ellis here, and I've been looking forward to being in touch with you for the past 3 weeks. Well, I enjoyed my March break. Then the world changed, and it looks like you are not coming back to Suzuki. I'm not going back to Suzuki, but the learning is still going to happen. This first week, we're going to take it a little easy, and I know that many of you have been, at least in the first week of March break, you are doing things that you have not been doing for probably a long time, especially in these past 3 weeks, the amount of time you spent with family. So I just want to maybe share a little bit with what I've been doing with my family. I have a family of 4. I have my oldest, Jace, who's in university, first year at University of Waterloo. I have my youngest, Darian, who's 15 in grade 11. I have my wife, Christine, who's also a teacher in a school here in Hamilton. And of course, you know who I am. I want to start off my show with a share of some of the things I've been doing for the past 3 weeks, and then I'm going to ask you to share back. Not nearly as much detail. I've been doing quite a bit, but let me share a few things here. So we've been doing a lot of nature walks, and I found this in Inukshuk. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. You've probably seen a variety of these because it's part of the indigenous symbols that we see across Toronto, across the province, across the nation. And what it does is it really symbolizes safety, hope, and friendship. So as we enter into these uncertain, unprecedented times, I'd like you to think about the safety of your home and the safety of social distancing, as well as hope, right? We hope to be back together soon. We know it's not going to be for a long time, but sooner than later. So as I said, we did a lot of nature walks. We found some places at this time of year. We live kind of in a wetland area. I don't know if you know Hamilton at all, but there's these things called Webster's Falls, Tews Falls. Hamilton's the city of 100 waterfalls or something like that. There's lots of water. And so we were checking out this body of water by a dam, and the mud was probably ankle deep at the minimum. So it was really challenging to walk around. As you are learning or living in your new reality here, we are all looking for places to work. And I know I've been talking to quite a few alumni, as a matter of fact. I know this one person had sent me a picture of her new workspace that happens to be in her parents' closet. I guess it's a pretty big closet, but that was a space that was quiet enough for her to work in. So in our home, we have 4 people. All of us are doing work. This is Darian's current room. This is not his sleeping room. It's an extra bedroom we have in our house. There's Leo. He's a leopard gecko in that cage over there. And this is his workspace. So he's doing some math. And Jace is working in our room. We have a little section towards the end with lots of windows. It's really sunny. He likes taking pictures of animals as they go around. Surprise, surprise. So that's his space there. Christine, she works in the main living room area. So she's doing some work here, some math with Darian at the moment. She loves doing puzzles. And she also works at the kitchen table and switches out in the room sometimes. And so she's teaching at a school where the students check in at 8:30, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, whatever their classroom starts. It's a very different environment than us. They actually are running school virtually, whereas we're running an online environment. And then here's my workspace. I like monitors. I like having lots of real estate so I can move things around and not worry about I still have 50 windows open, but it makes it easier when I have this many monitors. It snowed here. I was talking to my colleagues and friends in Brampton, and they didn't get quite the same snow. This was a week ago, and so I was able to do my initials. We made a snowman. It didn't last very long. That was like 2 days later. We're fortunate in the area that we live in. They've been very clear, the government, about staying home as much as possible, getting outside for exercise if need be, and shopping and hospital and whatnot. We live in an area where there are not a lot of homes, so we're able to. This is across the road. There's a really large hill, so that arrow's pointing to where my home is from that hill. So we went up to this hill. We go there every other day and just walk around in the swamps. That's us on top of the hill. That's Jason Darian. One of the trails that we can walk to from my home, it's a fairy trail, and they have these little fairy doors in all these trees. So that's interesting. An elephant in a tree. He has the trunk and the eyes. Some of you, I don't know if you've been shopping with your parents, they probably left you at home, hopefully, and only one of them went out, so that there's as few of you as possible going outside. This was a Costco lineup. I decided to go to the end of it, check it out, and then I left. It's easier to shop at Food Basics or No Frills or something. Here's an aerial view of kind of where my home is and us walking up that big giant hill and then into the swamps in the back there. So lots of green space where I live. Makes it easy to get some fresh air. A lot of us are eating. So I was looking up some recipes and someone mentioned biryani. I don't know if I said it properly, and several people mentioned it. I was like, okay, that looks really good. Let me give that a try. I had no idea the amount of prep I needed to make it. It turned out pretty well. Apple pie and ice cream, homemade apple crumble and ice cream, one of my favorite dishes ever. So eating is one of the prime activities that we're doing currently in these past 3 weeks. And a little bit of fun. I have a fish tank, and look, I have an anglerfish. Well, it was that virtual reality Google search animal thingy, and so I played with that for a little bit. Annoyed my kids, putting it everywhere. They just ignored me. Playing lots of family games. There's pandemic. It's kind of topical. We're in a pandemic, the game pandemic. Haha. And I play Scrabble. So I've been playing Scrabble online. Play a couple good words here. I quit Q on the double letter triple score as a lot of points. So that was the first 3 weeks of COVID and what it looked like. I thought I might as well update this and talk about the last couple of weeks and what that has looked like as we seem to be coming to the end of hopefully the end of our COVID reality. So like yourselves, I was teaching in the classroom, and it was a very, very, very challenging year. My last quad, I had a group of grade 12s that we had an excellent time. We were able to learn lots together, and at the very end of it, they gave me a little surprise, and it was really nice to receive all the thank yous. It was always nice to be appreciated. And one of them, they was listening really well, and they understood how much I like Kermit the Frog and drew this for me. So that was a nice way to end the school year, after which we then recorded our virtual grad ceremony and did that a couple of days later. Then as a family, we escaped. We decided that it was time to leave the house. We do leave the house on a weekly basis for our nature walks. We happen to live in an area where there's a lot of green space. But we decided to head down to Toronto and go to Center Island for the first time in a little while. So that was nice to hop on the ferry and go across to Center Island. Interesting story is that Center Island happens to be the very first place I taught. Toronto Island has a school that goes from its elementary school for the community that lives on Wards Island, and right in the heart of the CBD of Toronto, there is no elementary school, so they could take the ferry across and go there. I was doing the nature science school, so it was one of the 2 outdoor ed schools that Toronto had. So I was there for my first placement, so that was a long time ago. I don't know if you go to Toronto Island, there's a bunch of different islands. There's Chippewa Island, there's Snake Island, which is really cool. You take this little bridge across and you'll find a nice, perfect little spot. I like to play around with Adobe, and so I took a couple of photos and I was able to stitch them together to get this longer shot. This is actually 2 photos put together. But if you go to Snake Island, you get a perfect view of the skyline of Toronto for those of you who are into taking pictures like that. So there's my family looking at the city. And after we finished that little trip, we then came back to the mainland and we found the closest rich, decadent ice cream place that we could find, and we indulged on the boardwalk. As a family, we tend to go out on the weekends and just walk around. Since March, I think 10th of 2020, almost every single weekend, apart from like 4, we went on some type of, typically just walking around the woods, enjoying Lake Ontario, enjoying the snow or the heat. Recently, because I said in the last week or so, we did go out to a strawberry field and pick some strawberries for the first time. So that was an interesting experience for us. This past, I guess it was yesterday, we went to the RBG. We have an RBG pass, and RBG has a lot of different places that you can go to and visit. And so we actually went to the gardens, because the gardens has been closed for the past few months as well, because you need to go inside in order to get to the outdoor gardens. So we went to the gardens and took lots of pictures of the flowers. I'm into macro photography, astrophotography. I like taking photos. So here's a close-up of a really tiny flower. The flower here is about 4 millimeters in diameter. So that was a really interesting close-up. And I really like looking at those structures. as a scientist in me. As a family, we play lots of games. Munchkin is really our go-to cardboard game, but here is us playing Pandemic. So we tend to play lots of games as a family, and we totally enjoy it. This is a collaborative game, so we're not at cutthroat and going against each other. We'll all have to cooperate in order to get to the end goal. I mentioned that I like taking photographs, so when we had that annular solar eclipse that happened a couple of weeks ago, I was driving in my vehicle at the break of morning at 5:30 looking for a perfect spot to get that picture, and I think I got a good one here off the highway. I am double vaxxed, and my entire family has 2 shots each, so that's, like I said, a step closer to normalcy, and I'm really happy about that. I was one of the fortunate few, I guess, I don't know, I think we're the majority, that didn't suffer any ill effects. I had a little bit of a sore arm, but nothing that was different from a typical flu shot that I had, and that was true for most of my family. I've been reading. I read a lot. I like to read. I enjoy reading books. I typically read about 175 to 200 books a year, and they're a combination of my sci-fi and fantasy along with real things that are going on in the world. I recently picked up this one here, Mine Spread Out on the Ground, and it was very topical for what was happening with the residential schools. It's written by a person who identifies as, she calls herself a Canadian Indian, and she has a white parent, an Indigenous parent, and she was just talking about her reality, what it was like to grow up in the schools and to be separated. She talked about being in Brantford, and it's very topical and it's very local because it's a person who grew up in Ontario. So this was a very good book to learn about some of the realities, the lived realities of the natives that I've been in this country for a very long time. And before this book, I actually read these 2 books here, Buried My Heart at Wounded Knee and Empire of the Summer Moon, both excellent recollections of how the Indigenous population that was once here, how they were pretty much forced off their land into reservations, and then that story. So I have been reading these 3 books. And another book that I just recently read and I've really enjoyed, it was much more optimistic, and it talked about humans. The premise is that humans are inherently kind. And when you watch the media and the news and read the papers and go on social media, it seems like that's absolutely not the case. But this author made a great premise and had a lot of support, and whether or not you agree or disagree, it does offer some hope and optimism and great conversation. So I also just finished reading that as well. One of the nice things about being a teacher, of course, is that you get to see your students graduate, and so I've been having an opportunity as more and more of us become double vaxxed, and to see some of them. These 2 here, they graduated quite a while ago, and one of them was off to Chicago actually a couple of days ago, and the other one is working as a child behavioral disorder specialist. So it was nice to see them. I have another student from a long time ago who just got married and had a drive-by wedding reception. So you drove by in your car, and they had that whole gazebo set up, and you got to see the bridal party and say hi and congratulate them, and so that was really nice. So that's what I've been doing for the past couple of weeks, for the most part: reading, getting outside with my family, making some more connections and whatnot. So please do take some time to share something that you've done either at the beginning of the pandemic, in the middle of the pandemic, at the end of the pandemic. Share with us so we get a better idea of who you are. You'll see a link in that Getting to Know You page, and that will bring you to this Padlet. And on this Padlet, what you're going to do is you're going to log in. If you don't have an account, then you can create an account. You're going to then create a post. It's like a post-it note. And on that post-it note, include a picture that kind of exemplifies either what your COVID experiences look like for the past little while, or maybe one specific event. And I'm going to ask that as a class, you pick, at least 2 other people and respond with some kind of positive comment, remark on something that they've shared, and that will give us an opportunity to get to know each other just a little bit better. On this picture here, it's a It's very similar to what I showed you, because I just went on that little excursion. It could have been anything that was green for us, or any board game, or any type of food, because those are kind of three of the things that we have been doing. I avoided sharing any kind of educational teaching photo, because that's been an overwhelming experience. I'm trying to show something that was happening outside the classroom. All right, so at the end of this, hopefully we'll have a better idea of who we are in this classroom. And with this, in addition to the bingo activity, we'll have an idea of who we can connect to and have some shared experiences that will allow us to have better conversations.